So as you can see, this is a simple write-up on what the construction site layout plan is all about. Construction site layout plan is a detailed diagram that shows the arrangement of the temporary facilities, equipment and material storage area on a construction site. Okay, there are some facilities, temporary facilities or temporary structures that you actually need to build or place in your construction site to make sure that your construction process or the building that you want to build or the project that you want to construct is well achieved, okay, without any form of interaction. The plan is to create, the plan is created before the start of the project and serve as a guide for construction team to ensure the site is organized efficiently and safely. The layout plan includes information on the location of the project. Okay, we have been doing, when we talk about GIS from the beginning now, we have done what we have to do with location mapping of your site. So even from the beginning, before you even do your layout, you actually need to create a boundary of your site and then possibly create the location map of that particular site, okay? Now, such as the site officer, workers, restroom, first aid station, it also identifies the areas of materials and equipment, storage, site access, and parking. The plan considers safety precautions such as keeping a clear distance between different work areas and ensuring safe access and exit point for workers and vehicles. In summary, the construction site layout plan is a crucial document that helps to manage the various activities that take place on the site, ensuring that the work is carried out safely and efficiently. Okay, so these are what the construction site layout is all about. Now, why do we need to do the site layout before construction? You understand? Is to maximize space, okay? Because, you know, if you just possibly start putting your materials anyhow, you discover that you just occupy space unnecessarily without proper organization. And if you are using a CAD software or you are using manual sketch, you will just be doing reasonable assumption. But when you are using a GIS platform, possibly from the satellite image, you understand, you discover that you'll be seeing exactly the positioning of everything that you are placing. For example, you are seeing the real distance at which, let's assume you are putting your crane, you know the place, the position where you put your crane, and at the same time, you can simulate the radius at which the crane can cover, so that you don't actually need to move the crane from a particular initial locations to another particular locations, because that will cost delay and at the same time incur more cost in the cost of construction. So maximizing space is one of the reasons why we need to do site layout. Site layout ensures that the available land is used effectively, minimize waste space, and maximize the functionality of the site. Okay. Then optimizing traffic flow. You understand? If you do your proper layout, you discover there will be no restriction in the movement. Okay, the same thing has to do with creating a good space, or the proper planning will know that, okay, you don't actually wait for so thing to be done before so thing can be moved, because you have already planned that, okay, this thing is moving and then you are following this particular direction. Maybe if the vehicle is coming to the site, the vehicle is following one route, and then all the vehicle that is going outside is following another route. So depend on the size of the project that would actually warrant such layout. So all those things need to be put into consideration. Meeting regulations. Now, there are regulatory bodies or there are regulations that is required, okay, when you are dealing with a project, possibly a well-recognized project or a government project, you actually required to actually produce what they call building document, okay? Now, the building document requires some of those things, your site layout, your safety measures, you understand, all those are different building documents that you actually need to produce. So for regulations, you need to produce a site plan. Okay. Then improving safety. A well-designed site layout can improve safety by ensuring the emergency access. So it's still the same thing. If it is well designed, if your site is well designed, it will help in safety measures, taking safety measures in your construction site. Okay, because that has to do with the movement of goods or equipment within the site. Okay, so if it is not well planned, it's covered that it's going to be a lot of hazard in the site. Enhancing aesthetic. When there is a good site layout and then there is a proper effective work in your site, you discover that the building or the project itself will actually look fine. Okay. Then overall, site layout is an important part of building design process that help to ensure that the safety, functionality, and the aesthetic appeal of the sites. Okay. So now, preparing a construction site layout plan is an important part of construction process, and there are several factors that should be considered. So as a site manager or as a layout officer, you actually need to put some things into consideration. First, you need to consider the site boundary and then the access point. Okay. We have done that using, from the beginning of our training, we can be able to use QGIS to actually bring out our site boundary, the boundary of our site, by carrying a polygon to digitize the place. Okay. And then the first consideration when preparing a construction site layout is site boundary and access point. The plan should identify the location of the site boundary and any access point to the site, include road, driveway, and pedestrian walkway. Building footprint and orientation. You need to consider the existing building that is on that site and the orientation of the building. The building footprint and the orientation should be considered when preparing the construction site layout. The plan should show the location and orientation of the building as well as the setback and required clearance. Okay. A site topography and grading should be considered. The slope of the site should also be considered because that will determine the placement of your building, possibly your proposed site, and possibly your drainage, your water tank, and all others, because your layout should consider all those things. Okay. So if you know the topography of the place, which the help of GIS can also help you to generate a contour. Okay, you can pick a coordinate, you can send the surveyor to the site, and then they'll pick a coordinate, pick the heights, the location and the height of the particular site, and then you can now generate your contour. If you generate your contour, you can be able to know the topography or the slope of that particular site. Or possibly if you visit the site, you can know how the slope of the place or how the topography of the site look like. Utility and services. The plan should identify the location of any utilities or services such as water, electricity, gas, and telecommunications. This information is important to determine the location of any utility connection or services or service infrastructure that may be required. For example, I remember we did a project recently in Lagos where there's going to be, I talked about this the other time, where it is required for there's going to be a construction. Okay, there's going to be a construction, and then there's going to be a construction, and there's going to be an excavation in that place. So what is required is that the site manager actually want to know if there's any underground pipe existing on that site, so that in case of excavation, you will not just start excavating and then you meet a heavy pipe on the ground. So it actually comes to actually use a GIS technology and then remote sensing or geotechnical survey to actually do what we call a GPR survey, okay, ground penetrating radar survey, where we carry the machines that pass through the whole site to determine if there's any form of underground pipe. Okay, so all those things you need to put into considerations. Okay, then we'll talk about storage and staging areas. The plan should also show the location of any storage or staging areas. Include areas for storing construction materials, equipment, and wastes. Okay. Traffic management, also we talk about it, it should be considered one of the reasons why we need to do a site layout. So you have to consider the traffic management, and then lastly, the health and safety, okay, which is actually very, very important. In all those things, whether the topography, the space management and all it has to do with all of safety is actually considered in most of them, even in the traffic management. Okay, health and safety is also very, very important. Okay, the plan should also take into account any health and safety considerations, such as emergency access point, fire exit, and first aid facilities. Okay, so these are the basic things or basic considerations that you need to know or you need to have before you can actually design a site plan. Okay, so at the end of today's class, if you have a particular site that you want to do, you actually know that, okay, I need to consider so thing before I do my site layout. And then there's something in project management you have to do with a sequence, okay, a sequence of constructions. Or now in terms of the site layout, now we are not actually considering the sequence of constructions, but we are considering the tasks involved in the construction process, because you actually need to know what that is required in building a house or in carrying out a particular constructions before you can be able to produce a site layout. What I mean is that you need to understand, okay, you need a security house. You need to understand that, okay, you need the locations where you can put cement. You need to understand that, okay, you need a location where you can put quartz or fine aggregate. Okay, all those things you need to consider. If it is a building that requires reinforcement, you need to consider the locations for that. And then the size of reinforcement that is going to bring and the magnitude of the site, you understand? So all those things need to be put into considerations. So if you have that intact, like if you understand all those requirements, now doing it or sketching out bring out the plan is actually not a difficult thing to be done. Okay, so I believe everybody is hearing me, and then you understand this particular brief explanation of what site layout is all about. You understand? And are you hearing me?
Yes, I am. The place I just cleared by the roadside. The place is noisy. That's why I'm not talking.
Okay, I understand.
I don't have to mute myself. Yes.
Okay, I understand. Okay. Mr. Suleiman, are you hearing me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, sir.
Yes, I'm hearing you, sir.
Okay. All right. So these are the basic principles or things that you need to note before you can now carry out your site layout. Okay. So we'll go straight to QGIS, and then we'll be able to demonstrate some few things. You remember quite okay that when we are talking about site layout now, we actually need to bring in polygons, because it has to do with boundaries of different locations or different facilities within the construction site. Okay, I will actually share one particular plan. Okay. Okay, are you seeing my screen? Hope you are seeing my screen.
Yes, sir. We are seeing your screen.
Okay, so now you can see the site layout that we have here. Okay, so you can see the arrangement of the layout. If you can see clearly, from my left here, we have trash and recycling. So possibly, if the kind of constructions that you want to do, possibly it has to do with renovation, or there's any kind of things that we think, you know, that people are, there's a demolitions, or all the trash can be kept in a particular location so that it will not interfere with other activities on site. Then we talk about, this is the steel depot. Then we have the crane, and then you can see this is where the plane is positioned. And at the red, we are seeing this red dot, which is showing the crane radius. That is the coverage of the crane. Okay, the coverage at which the crane will move. You understand? So if crane, this is the site, and then you place a crane at this particular position now, and then it can cover the whole place, and then you are saying this is the house foundation, that is a proposed building itself. Then that's, now with this, you know that you are not going to move your crane, because the position at which you place this your crane now can actually cover the whole place. Okay, then we'll talk about the stone depot. That's where you keep your stones. Okay, you can actually categorize it into quartz or fine aggregates, or depending on the kind of stones that you put. We have plaster light, we have wood depot, where you put your wood. We have a prefabricated pad, possibly when you do some of your fabrications, depending on the kind of construction work you are doing. And then you see water and power. We have the water, and then we have the power. And then we have the office. We have 3 offices here. We have carpenters. We have a break room. Okay, and then we have the toilet. Then we have the excavated ground where you're going to put all your excavated sand. Okay, so now this is a typical examples of how the site layout is all about. Now you agree with me with what we have learned so far with QGIS, you can actually create this site layout. Okay, because as you can see, all these things are polygons. And then you have to digitize the polygons and then fill it with the name. And then later on, you now label it. Okay, you now label your polygons, and then you produce a map.